Well, the Bad Batch happened. Hello and welcome to week 16 of building Kamino. You may be surprised to see my actual face because I don't usually show it in Kamino updates, but I was just so shocked at what happened this week. If you didn't know, well, you probably do know if you're watching my channel, but the Bad Batch got released this week, and they released a 75-minute episode as the premiere, at least 80% of which was set on Kamino, so hence I've got a lot of new inspiration. Every 10 minutes a new room showed up in Kamino. I was like, I've got to build that scene, I've got to build that scene, I've got to make that scene, and I kept going and going and going, where it turns out that I now have at least 5 new rooms that I need to add to Kamino. So what this week's episode is going to be is basically creating the framework so all of those rooms can fit in, as well as finally making that large curved roof to go over the top of Kamino. So I've basically now got an idea of where everything's going to be placed. So over the next few weeks I can just make all of these new interesting rooms. It's going to be a lot of fun and I'm so excited to do it. So let's hit that intro.
Move it, troopers! On the double! Fire!
Okay, so here's the top floor as it currently sits. You can see here I've switched out a lot of the dark bluish grey I used to have up here for some brighter colours, just so I can keep those large dark bluish grey plates for other areas of the mock, because these won't be seen anyway, they'll all be tiled over, so I might as well not waste useful grey plates and just use these awkward garish green ones. I think what my plan for Kamino is now going to be, essentially, is that the bottom half of the mock will be based off of that Season 3 arc of the Clone Wars, and then this top section will be based off of that Bad Batch episode. Because there was so much going on in that episode, and so many rooms I want to recreate. I want to make the prison, I want to make the training facility, I want to make like the medical rooms, I want to make the Bad Batch's quarters, and I've got to make that mess hall. I also need to put in things like the armory from Season 3, which I couldn't fit below. There's just so much that can get done here, so I'm so excited to put it all in. That's seeing if I can fit it all in at least. I think what this episode is largely going to be is mapping out the areas of the mock for this second floor and the big changes I want to make. Because initially I didn't have much plans to go up here, I was kind of just going to do my roof and put it over. But I think I'm going to move my roof up a little bit taller, just so I can fit as much stuff into this mock as possible. Because you know how I work with mocks, I want to cram as many rooms and as much detail into this thing as physically possible until the whole thing breaks. You know what I mean. If I could, I'd add a bunch of scenes from episode 2, but that's when you're starting to get completely out of hand, out of the size I was building here. I could build the mock bigger, but that requires me getting more water bricks, which requires a lot more money, and you know how I feel about those water bricks. Let's start mapping things out. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes and I'm starting to get an idea of basically what I want to do in this upper floor. Now, one slight issue with doing so many Bad Batch scenes in Kamino is the figures that are going to be there. Now, as we may know, within the last week, the Bad Batch shuttle was finally officially released, and it does come with a lot of really cool figures from the Bad Batch, which I would love to use in the mock. Unfortunately, that set does not release until August, and it is currently still in May. So, I believe that this mock will be finished long before August. So potentially getting those figures by that point may be a difficulty. So in the meantime, I may have created my own little interpretation of the Bad Batch. But in order to see that, I will make a dedicated video towards those, so expect that some point next week to see those guys in full. But I'm very excited to showcase all of them to you. The first room that I think I'm going to focus on is the actual training facility, which I think I'm going to have in this slither down here. I think because it's got that slight rise in the floor, I think I can have like some kind of slope heading up to the actual citadel. So I can have like from this white plate being the actual citadel section and this being the actual training room. Of course, everything here is going to be much more scaled down to what it would actually be in order to be accurate. That's just how I work. I don't mind things being not necessarily perfectly in scale, just as long as it kind of makes sense to me at least. The other rooms don't really have a specific place yet, but this is basically how I think I'm going to plan them out. I'm going to be able to fit one over here in this corner, one here, one longer one here, And then we're gonna have then we come into some slight issues. This slither has been cut out for quite a long time, but I don't know if I've got anything that can fit in a gap that's 5 studs wide, which the first 2 studs would probably be taken out with wall detail. So I've literally got 4 studs to put something in here, and plus I also need to have my light stretching over this section. So maybe I could just like connect this as part of this room, so all of this connects together. I don't know specifically what I'm going to do with this section. I may end up just bordering it all up if I don't have enough room for it, because you know I like to try and stuff it as much detail as possible. So I'd be quite annoyed with myself if I end up not being able to fill this in some way, but that just may end up being how it turns out. And then, as I said before, I'm going to cover this layer once I've got my light in to put the mess hall on top of here, because in the episode you can see that was a much bigger room, so I think I can fit that in there. Now of course there's some parts of Kamino which I can't fit in, like the actual cloning room, like those large pillars. They'd be really cool to make and build, but I just do not have space to put them anywhere. My roof is going to be quite tall, like the citadel here is going to stretch up to like about that tall, and that'll be about the same height as the mess hall. So that'll stretch up to here, and then maybe for these rooms then I can put a layer between here and then fit a couple other rooms up here. As I said before, I like to stuff in literally as much as I can as possible, so then I can maybe start putting in some other references to rooms up here as well. Yeah, that is actually quite a good idea now thinking about it. So what I want to do now is start like basically sketching out this entire area to make it a little bit more obvious about everything going on. So basically build up these walls a little bit taller, just make everything make sense, try and sort out my lighting early. You can see here I've only got 3 lights for this whole section, because I made this small like removable area to access my light switch, which I think is quite good. Like I love how this bit's lit down here with these 3 lights, and then also Cult's corridor is lit up there, as well as another section I think, which I can't remember. Oh yeah, the main hangar is too. As you can see here, I don't have that many lights left, so I don't know specifically where I'm going to put these. I'll try and even them, disperse them fairly as much as I can, but I think it may end up in the situation where I'm just going to have to buy more lights, unfortunately, even though they are expensive. But you know, it's a necessary evil to try and make them all look as good as possible. But as I said, let's start building up those walls. Okay, so you can now see that I've attached the front section of what's eventually going to be the big folding back roof here, which I think looks quite good. I'm going to detail this up a little bit more later, but I need to get some tiles in and stuff. Besides that, you can see I've done a lot of work back here directly on top of the hangar roof itself. You can see here I've basically stuck a 3 brick wall like section over the top of all of this, which I think is quite good. You can see I've got the spot here for my light to come in to light up this room, as I said before. So that means on top of this I can just put a plate down and start on the mess hall in this area whenever I make a start on that. But yeah, I'm happy with that, at least at the height it's at. So I now basically need to do a little bit of cleanup. Like I figured out for the slither I can fit 2 more rooms in, that being a very small one here and a very small one here. I might just do like little joke scenes in here or something else, but like nothing too detailed or anything, because like what's that? 9 studs by 5 studs, it's hardly good dimensions, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's not wonderful, but it's what I'm working with. But yeah, now I'm going to start a live stream where I try and get as much done on Kamino as possible, so I'll see you after that. Okay, so after a quick live stream, I've got a lot of stuff done on Kamino. So what I said I was going to do is just clear up this area, and I think that's what I did. I've basically made it obvious where everything's going to go. You can see now the rooms that I'm kind of creating. This back wall, we're going to have 4 primary rooms, that being this one, this one, this one, and this one. If I spin it this way, there'll be a wall like from here heading down there, which borders off these ones, and then that wall will stretch out to create those 2 rooms there. This I'm going to leave open into this area here, which is going to be a much larger room. And then we've got 2 very small rooms in here, as well as this slot where the light's going to go through. This is not a final design for the walls. This was just me as a kind of placeholder, just so I can hold up the roof. And this will obviously have a plate over the top of it as well. You can see here I've started to create like the actual sides of the main roof of Kamino. This is going to be like the height of it, and you can kind of see how I've got that curve going back. I like how I did it with the light bluish grey outside and the dark bluish grey interior. I know that not all of the connections are perfect, but I think that's probably the best I'm going to get it in terms of trying to be as flush as possible with that line. A lot of this area around here will not be used for anything because the curve will kind of cut it off, so there isn't actually that much room to do it. You can see out of this window here, another room will be created there, and then a much longer one will be created down here. I think these rooms are just going to be that tall. I'm not going to put like double layers on top of these ones like I am with those, which I think is fine for this section. In terms of what I am actually physically going to put in the rooms, this room I don't have much of an idea yet, like specifics in terms of what's going to go in here. This room I do, which was actually inspired to me by a person in the chat called Steve Marshall. So yeah, sometimes if you come to the live streams and give me suggestions, they can go directly into the mock, which that will do. And basically what I'm going to put in here is that scene from the Bad Batch episode where Lama Su basically shuts down the hangar door, which I think works because it's like right close to the actual hangar and just under it, so it makes sense being here, and it's just a tiny little scene that I can recreate. Okay, here's my base design for the actual hangar wall itself. I've basically got a large line of 4 wide plates, and I've lined the entire bottom with about 6,000 mixwell joints, purely just for strength to keep this so it doesn't keep falling off. And I've tried to basically cover that with a layer of these plates, which I've then doubled up and connected in the back here. Unfortunately, this connection on the back means I can't have a plate here and a plate here, so I've kind of just like gone intermittently gaps to basically make it strong on both this side and this side here. But this isn't really going to be seen, so it doesn't matter if it looks too ugly. And then I'm basically, what I'm now basically going to have to do is create a bunch of modules which connect on top of these at these 4 mixwell joint spots to basically create that curved wall going up. So let's basically show you what one of those looks like. So this is basically what you're looking at for each of these modules. It's one layer of 2x plate in dark bluish grey with a layer of tiles going behind it with some grills and whatnot. That has light bluish grey behind it, just so you can see the light bluish grey on the inside. And then I've just got filler colours to represent the rest because I don't think people are going to see these sections and I don't have that much plate. So if I show you on the ball side, you just connect this down onto all 4 of the points, just like that. And you can start to see how you get that curve backwards. Luckily, it doesn't curve forward, which is useful, so it won't keep flapping all over the place. It can only go backwards, which is the direction I want it to go. So you can kind of see how I get that curve. So now I basically need to create a bunch of these to build up that wall as tall as possible and then attach it to Kamino. So let's do that. So that's how it looks like with 1. That's how it looks like with 2. That's 3. There's the 4th one. Number 5. And that's 6. Fully covering the screen. Perfect. Now let's get that onto Kamino itself. And there you have it. That is the curved roof fully installed into Kamino. I'm shocked it isn't too heavy that it brings down the weight of this whole thing, but I think by connecting it to this like supporting beam, like this frame you can now see me starting to create with Kamino, it's really like, it stays solid. These things are less solid if anything. But so yeah, I'm really happy with how I've achieved that curve, and I think it really helps to round out the actual shape of Kamino and how it actually looks. Potentially Kamino in total is slightly too tall in relative to its full size, but that just means I can stuff more rooms into the interior, so I don't mind too much, and I'm still a fan of it. But yeah, that's it for this week's episode of Building Kamino. It was a huge week. I wasn't expecting to get nearly this much done, but the Bad Batch episode inspired me. What can I say? There's so much I want to build now, and it's kind of reinvigorated my excitement to keep building with Kamino. And hopefully you'll enjoy that too, because we've got a bunch of new rooms to do, a bunch of new things to include into the mock, and it should be a lot of fun. So if you like this week's update, like the video. That's what the like button's there for. Comment your favourite thing we did this week. We didn't really get nothing done in terms of specific details. It was kind of just building up from here. It's crazy to think that last week we were at this level and everything up has been built this episode. So it's been quite a big one. Let's just say I got quite inspired by the episode. And subscribe if you're new, because there's a whole bunch of new things that's going to be added to Kamino, a whole bunch of rooms, and I think the Bad Batch is going to reinvigorate the next few levels to make them even more relevant than anything in Kamino has been up to this point. So thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and goodbye. Okay, for the name clone section today, we've got 5 clones, that being Into the Lego World, Steve Marshall, Chupuru, no idea why they wanted me to call it that, Brickflower Smoothly, and Tamika. So thank you all very much for coming to the most recent live stream. In order to get your own named clone in the video, all you need to do is come to one of my live streams, and whenever the named clone section comes out, just tell me what accessory you want your clone to have and what you want me to name them, and I'll put that into the next day's episode of Building Kamino. So thank you very much for watching, and bye!